Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema. Well, this is a podcast where what we do is we go to the cinema every week. We see a couple of things, rate them out of 5. We stay at home and we watch a couple of things. If they're TV series, we watch them all the way to the end of the season, and then we rate that out of 5. We put them all against each other and we see where has the money been better spent this week? Who has won the battle for our eyeballs? My name is Tosin Ajayi, and I am based up in Bromsgrove in the middle of the country near Birmingham, and through the wonderful miracle of modern technology on the Isle of Wight, I have my great stalwarts in podcasting who have been with me for almost 10 years. It's almost 10 years we've been doing this. This is Sharon Bolland.
Hello there.
And Shaun Harris.
Oh, yeah.
We usually also have a London correspondent, Holly Neslin, but it is her birthday today. So happy birthday, Holly! If you ever listen to this back again, this is how we find out if she actually listens to the show when she's not on it. Happy birthday, Holly! Enjoy being a culture vulture in London because she is off doing things in theaters and all that kind of stuff, all that kind of lovely high level stuff. But anyway, let's go to the reason why we're here. Going to the movies, seeing things in cinemas, and then of course seeing things at home. What have we seen in the cinema this week?
Okay, I've seen Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Frozen Empire.
Mother's Instinct, which
Mother's
Instinct, which was a sort of card holder preview.
Ah, cool, gotcha. Yeah, because I wasn't sure that had been released yet. That's the Jessica Chastain and Hathaway movie.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think now that it's been like a month since Dune Part 2 came out, and so other films are beginning to stick their heads above the parapet. Like Ghostbusters are like, is it safe now?
Yeah.
Is it safe?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. We'll come out.
We've got Godzilla Kong, haven't we? And we've got the one that I'm incredibly looking forward to, which I will go straight after the podcast next week, which is Civil War.
Yes,
for a long time.
Yeah, I did look at the schedules, and it did seem that all of a sudden we're going to have a whole bunch of films coming out the next couple of weeks. They're going to be so Civil War looks good. I mean, when you said the one you were looking forward to, I thought you were going to say Furiosa.
Yeah, but that's due out as well. There's a few now, so we might have to be going beast mode. You never know.
Sure, just going to live in the cinema.
Well, there'll be some stuff that I probably want to see, but
Yeah. I know. I'm actually thinking because next week I'm actually going down to Essex. I'm going to be with my wife's family, and I'm thinking, hang on, if I'm down there, there's going to be more people to look after the kids. I could spend more time in the cinema, and I will also be in the vicinity of what has become my favorite cinema in the entire UK, the Premier Cinema in Romford, where each film costs £3.50.
Wow, that's good. What, even the new stuff?
Even the new stuff. I've been there once. I went there at Christmas and saw Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And the fact that I paid £3.50 made the film seem... It lessened the impact of having to watch that film. Because if I'd paid £10 to watch that, I don't know. I might have been annoyed. But I was just sitting down there going, £3.50! £3.50 for the entire film. That's what I was just thinking. So yeah, I think I might go down there, get my pocket money, go down to the Premier Cinema in Romford, and watch some. I might even watch Immaculate. I might watch Immaculate. I might watch Imaginary because hey, it's £3.50. Why not?
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Imaginary. You're gonna go watch Imaginary, yeah?
No, I did not. I did not promise that. I did not. I did not promise that. I said that the fact that it's £3.50 means that it's more likely, especially if nothing else comes out. But we'll see. I mean, it's the holidays. There should be something. Okay, so Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, Mother's Instinct. So Sharon, you in cinemas?
I have seen Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire at the cinema.
Go, and I too have seen Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire at the cinema because thanks to the horrible weather we're having, I couldn't play tennis one night. So I shot a pleading look to my wife, and she was like, "Yes, fine, you can go to the cinema." So went to see Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire on Tuesday night. All right, cool. And then when we go to the home side of things, the Netflix and Friends side of things, what have we seen this week?
Well, I did watch Master of the Air, as you know, and I was waiting for Sharon to catch up to watch it. So
yep, and Sharon has seen that now.
I hope she has.
I've caught up with it. I had a binge watch week of catching up with that, so I have watched all 9 episodes in the last 4 days.
All right, cool. And Sharon, did you take up the dare? Did you watch Irish Wish?
No.
let's say there's a lot of I'm not sure if this is the right word, but correspondence, or there's a lot of chatter online about Irish Wish. Most of it, so like essentially saying this is the harbinger of the apocalypse, and even people who I don't think usually have a reason to say anything about this are saying we think. I'm not sure if you can be racist to. It's like I'm not sure you can be racist to like Irish people, but I think this film might be racist to Irish people. Because apparently it is kind of like anyway. I don't know. I feel bad talking about it if I haven't watched it because let's be honest, I'm not going to watch it, and I think we're going to have to wait until Holly comes back because Holly's probably the one who's going to watch Irish Wish and let us know if all of the stuff if all the stuff that's said about it is warranted. Right, cool. So let us kick off with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So, okay, I'll take this one. So, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is the latest film in the Ghostbusters franchise. So, obviously, you have the Ghostbusters film. The original one was made in the 80s. They had 2 films made there. Most people know about the history of Ghostbusters and know about what's happened. Then there's been this late thing where Jason Reitman, who is the son of the original person who directed the first one, made Ghostbusters Afterlife a couple of years ago. And that did quite well. People quite liked it. There was like a bit of a blast of nostalgia. It was a bit of, okay, this is good. There's actually still something in here. And they have now come up with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which is a direct sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. The family that we met in the last film, which is the Spengler family, they have moved from, I think, Oklahoma, where they were. They're now back in New York, and they're back in the original sort of Ghostbusters firehouse. And they're going around, they're reviving Ghostbusting all around New York and doing all that kind of stuff. And as you know, with all these things, something happens, big, bad, make massive supernatural menace, something's going to happen, everybody has to band together and fight it. That's what you get. That's what you're going to get from a Ghostbusters movie. It's not going to be anything more than that. And so that's the storyline that we have this time around. We have everybody back from the last one. We have Paul Rudd. We have McKenna Grace. We have Finn Wolfhard. We have Carrie Coon. We have the original Ghostbusters in this film. We have new people in this film, all that kind of stuff. And before I ask you guys what I'll just say, and I remember looking at this film and looking at the run times, because nowadays, every time I look at a film, I have to look at the run times before I actually go watch it, because I'm like, let's see how much of my day I'm going to take. And when I saw the film runtime was advertised as 2 hours and 20 minutes, my heart sank, because I was like, there is no reason this type of film needs to be that long. And there were a couple of things that I immediately started thinking. I was like, okay, that runtime tells me bloated. That runtime tells me too many things going on. That runtime tells me not focused enough. And that runtime tells me I'm going to be annoyed. And I'll let you guys talk about what you thought about the film before I say whether that was actually what I experienced. So
it's one of those films where you can have like a list of pros and cons. There's a lot to like about it, and then there's like the grumbles about it, isn't there? And so I think there's lots to like about it in that it has the feel. It's got the feel right. It has tapped into the right amount of nostalgia with the old crew, and they have like this mystical object, this thing, that is the harborer of untold evil, and all the gadgets and all the dynamics of the relationships. It has the things in its favor. You have like the quirky ghost, and you have like your more scary ghost, and so it's like that's Ghostbusters as we know it. Yep. And then you've got the other things that you think, okay, because it's got a big cast. It's like having to the cons is like a big cast. You're having to, some of the characters are underused.
Yep.
And so some of the ones where you think you should be at the center, you are just like revolving all around together. So it's really hard to find where the focus of the story is. Because you've got different strands going on. And if you're going to have a big bad, then the big bad needs to be quite scary. And I must admit, I did not find the big bad at all scary. There was no sense of menace to it. So that's my good pros and cons.
I just like to say one thing on that, Sharon. I mean, you said that there were a whole bunch of people paraphrasing what you said, that there's people in this film who don't have much to do, and that includes the big bad who doesn't have much to do. Sorry, Shaun.
No. That's cool, but I totally agree with that. Bit like All-Man Steppenwolf, but yeah. Okay, my take on it was very
when
much
the big bad first appeared, I thought how are you going to get through the door? Because there's one point where he puts his horns on and he's in a very small room. And I thought, how are you going to get out?
Yeah.
He's not scary when he has to turn sideways and has to go, right, I'm getting out the door.
Yeah.
I
mean, obviously, I agree a lot with what you're saying there, Sharon. Totally agree with you. There's enough nostalgia in it for people to like. Although I think they tried too hard on that point. I think they 100%. They really put their effort into like 100%. The Slimer and all that, and it was put this in just to please the old crowd. I mean, I was never fully invested in Ghostbusters, so
yeah.
But let's pull in the crowds. They like this bit. They like this bit. We'll have the old ones turn up there, so you've got all that nostalgia bit for the young uns that are now all grown up. But yeah, I mean, there's so many plot holes, isn't there, really? And the inconsistency of like you've got this brilliant, all powerful thing that and these other things that they can't do anything with, and then all of a sudden they can, and it's like that is just so,
No, Shaun, I'm telling you, man, it's maybe, as I said, we've been doing this thing for about 10 years. Maybe you've rubbed too much on me, but the final battle, I was sitting down there going, oh, come on now, that makes no sense. Even with I was like, within the mythology that you've set up in the film, that makes no sense. There's a bit where they have this whole thing where they go, oh, this is a new kind of ghost, and therefore our proton packs are not going to work on them. And then it seems like, they figure this out that it's not going to work on them, while this ghost is having the slowest walk ever across Manhattan. So they're like, oh, we need to do something with brass, and therefore if we do this on brass, and they're doing all this smelting and everything like that, all the while this ghost is walking towards them. We're like, how slow is this ghost? And then when they go, okay. Yeah. And then they go, now this is the only thing that we have that has a chance of fighting against this guy. Then this guy comes in, and the person who has the only thing that they have is nowhere to be seen. It's somewhere
chatting away.
You're like, what the hell is going on here?
A bit sort of. Is that what they call Wokey? That bit, or a bit of the relationship between those two?
I don't think that's woke. I think that's just a relationship. No. I think that's just a relationship. Full stop. But there's things as well. I mean, when you talk about plot holes, like okay, let's go with Sharon. Let's not just be totally horrible. I mean, let's go with Sharon. You're right. There are some good things in this film, and I feel like the opening of the film starts off with this. Well, they have like a going back to New York, and I actually quite like the recreation of New York in like the 1900s or something like that. And then it goes back there, but then they jump forward to like present day, and as they're going around New York, and they have this car chase where they're trying to catch a ghost in modern day Manhattan that I actually quite liked. I quite liked the way they did it. I liked the way that they updated like how you film a Ghostbusters chase and everything. I thought this is working. This is actually quite good. And then the film gets bogged down, and for a long time in the film, nothing really happens. It's kind of, we're going to go to Dan Aykroyd, and we're going to talk about him, and we're going to bring back all these characters from the first film, and we're going to bring back all these characters from the first film that was made in the 80s. When I say the first film, I mean that they brought a whole bunch of characters back from Afterlife, and then they brought a whole bunch of characters back from the film that was made in the 80s, and then they have nothing much for a whole bunch of them to do, and it just bogs the film down in talky, and nothing happens for absolute ages. And there is this tension between story and nostalgia. Tell a story that actually goes somewhere, or try and bring the nostalgia back. And I feel like where they ended up with Ghostbusters Afterlife, they ended up in a good place to go forward with the story and leave the nostalgia a little bit behind. They ended up in a good place to do that, but instead they went back and they went even worse. like I feel like this is the film that Afterlife could have been in, like, your worst nightmares when it comes to that sort of just bringing people in for the sake of bringing people in, and they have nothing to do. They have absolutely nothing to do.
And it's a long time between you see them, isn't it? You see them once, and then they're like, where did they go? What are they doing? And there's one of the new characters who he sort of disappears upstairs, doesn't he? And then you
never see him. Yeah, it just doesn't see him.
And then he turns up at the end and says, did we win? Win. For the last however long.
Yeah,
what's the point of having him there if he was not going to do anything for the whole film?
Yeah, and there is
same stuff.
Yeah, and talking about the bit of the relationship that Shaun was talking about, that was actually, I thought one of the most effective bits of the film. There's one of the ghosts. It's one of the most effective bits of the film for a while. but the plot strand that character is involved in makes no sense, and it makes
I found that difficult.
It makes no sense, and it wasn't even like I finished watching the film and I go and think about it, and it makes no sense. As I was watching it, I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense, because if you could do that, why couldn't you just do that? And it was kind of like the bits of it I was like, yay, and then there was way too much of it where I was like, boo. Boo. I really wish that they, as nicely as possible, had chucked the older characters. I wish that they had chucked the original Ghostbusters and gone forward with the new ones, because I think it would have been a better film. It's almost as if there's 3 different films happening, and the films in which you have the new characters is a good one. The films in which you have the old characters in is a bogged down talky mess. I think.
Aimed at the the crowds that loved it on the first film, I guess. But I agree with you, Toes. Totally should have, they should have been a whole new,
just go with a new crowd. But so I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed, and I'm just a bit sad. Quite frankly. But anyway, Sharon, I think
interesting reaction to the people I went with. So I went with 2 other friends. One of my friends knew very little about the Ghostbusters universe at all, but because I said, "Oh, do you want to go to the pictures?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll go. It's an evening out." And the other one was like, "Yeah, I remember the Ghostbusters when I was a teenager. Really nostalgic." She really enjoyed it, and my first friend fell asleep halfway through because there wasn't enough in it. She said it was too loud, and I didn't really know what's going on, and it didn't really interest me. So I thought, "Oh, you've just spent £10 to sort of have a loud nap, really." And then my other friends sort of really enjoyed it. So I think it will be in those like 2 camps. There's not enough there to bring anyone into the Ghostbusters universe that didn't know it.
I considered having a nap. I really considered having a nap because
she just nodded. My other friend, because she definitely nodded off at one point. And so I think it's one of those ones that you want to feel slightly affectionate towards it because of what it is, but you can see that it's a flawed creature.
It really is. I mean, I didn't even mention Kumail Nanjiani. I have come to the conclusion I do not like him. I have come to the conclusion that, and the thing is, like, he keeps showing up in things because, and he's become like a sort of shorthand for me of somebody going, "Oh, we don't really know what to do with this thing. Oh, let's bring him in. Oh, it brings some diversity to things, and he can say a couple of things and be snarky and be funny. That'll work." And he does his thing because he always does his thing, and I do not like his thing. I do not like his thing, and the character has no reason to be there. I can see there's an element to. It's kind of one of those elements where they start dipping into folklore and ghost folklore of other cultures, and I think, okay, that's kind of interesting, but then they do nothing with it, but they just bring Kumail Nanjiani. And anyway, I've got to stop before I start sounding xenophobic because I'm going to stop. But I'm not a fan. Anyway, right. So how many stars would we give Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire?
I didn't hate it. It had a lot of plot holes in that. I mean, so it probably I don't know. It's probably this one's a low 3. So I'll give this one a low 3 because it had a couple of bits I didn't hate it. So
yeah.
But yeah,
I'm the same. I didn't hate it. I mean, there's some things to like. You do feel slightly affectionate towards it. Paul Judd and Carrie Coon are just are good on screen together. So there's enough there to make you go, and there's enough moments to go, "Oh, that was quite fun." So I would give it a 3. I think probably part of that 3 is probably affectionate 3 because I remember sort of liking Ghostbusters in days gone by. But so that's partly nostalgia speaking as well. But I'd say it just about makes a 3.
And I would also give it a 3, and mainly because they give Ernie Hudson more to do in this film than he probably had to do in the last 2. Because one of the problems I always had with the first Ghostbusters movie was that Winston the character of Winston Zeddemore felt like an afterthought. It felt like an absolute
let's just put
afterthought.
him in
Like,
there, yeah.
it felt like tokenism, quite frankly. Let's put a black guy in there. And I like the fact that they've given him more. And I heard an interview with him where he said that he said like, oh yeah, but can we give Winston something to do? We don't want Winston to be in the same place he was 40 years ago. So like the fact that he's the mogul and he's the one who's actually bankrolling the Ghostbusters. So it gets an extra star for me because it gives Ernie Hudson something to do. So 3 stars for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And now we go over to on to Apple TV Plus. And this is Masters of the Air. So Sharon, you've binge watched this over the last week. Would you tell us about Masters of the Air? What's this all about?
Masters of the Air is from the makers of, I believe, Band of Brothers and the Pacific. So it takes the war into a different theatre, and the theatre it's exploring this time is aerial combat, specifically the heavy bombers. And so the story follows a group of young men who leave America after their training, so at the beginning of 1943. So the war in Europe has been going on for sort of nearly 4 years, but the Americans have joined the war, and they've invested in sort of training up their pilots, their bomber pilots, their fighter pilots. And we follow a group of young men who are basically joining the heavy bombers. So they're going to be the B-52s, the
B-17s. B-17s. They came a bit later, the B-52s.
The 50, yeah. So the B-17s, they're the heavy bombers. So they are big aircraft.
All I have in my head now is Love Shack.
Exactly right, and that's it. That's the B-52. And Tosin, I was exactly the same. I was like,
you said you're okay. I was like, okay, be grown up about this. Be grown up about this. We're talking about, and I was like, no, sorry. I just have like everybody's moving, everybody's grooving, baby. Going on my head.
And so these particular bomber crews were 10-man crew, and they more or less would join up together, and they would fly together and fight together, and they'd go on these combat missions. And so we see these group of men, these different pilots and different members of the navigators, gunners and bombardiers, who are basically suddenly thrown out. Most of them have never left the United States before. They don't know much about Europe. They don't know what they're coming. They don't know much about the war they're coming into, and they're thrust into this thing where they are in these ships, as they call them, and they're flying these bombing missions across Europe into Germany. And one of the things about, and they're called the 100th Bomb Group, and you follow the lives of the mainly. It starts off with quite a large group, but then it focuses in on 4 really, I think. Major Egan, Major Levin, Crosby, and Rosie. They're the sort of one. There was 3 pilots and a navigator who becomes involved in the mission, and you follow them through the war. The story starts in 43 and it goes all the way through the length of the war, and you see them in their missions, how they're coping with the loss of their friends. Some of them their friends have become shot down and killed. Some of them become prisoners of war. Others have tried to escape across Europe, and you follow these strands of the story throughout. But it's mainly focused on these young men as they sort of men in their early 20s, some of them teenagers, as they suddenly have to face warfare that like the world has never seen before.
Yeah.
And so that is it. It's the story of following these young men as they fly these bombers, these missions. Some of the losses were astronomical because the crews were 10 men. You lose 2 aircraft, that's 20 men. And so on one mission, I think it's a historical record, I think they lost something like 15 crews. So in one day on one airbase, you lose 150 men. And so the impact of that on the men who flow these missions was astronomical.
Obviously, for me, I like the historical aspect of it. And so this mission on one day, they lost there was only 1 aircraft that actually returned, because there is a couple of episodes, a couple of them get shot down, and there's a couple of quite exciting episodes where they have to bail out, so they go put your parachutes on, and so there's this little story thread with a couple of them that prisoners, and they end up, they go through that village where they get beaten up. But for me, this was some of the episodes were good, some of the episodes not so good. I think it was it's no Pacific, it's no Band of Brothers, but it's still enough. And there's one particular raid they go on, which is a Schweinfurt ball bearing factory, which I really loved, where they fly to Tunisia, So what they say, right, we're getting too many shot down. So, and it is an actual raid. So we'll fly, but normally the German fighters would wait for them to get them on the return journey. So, as they do their business, get shot down, and then on the way back, all the German fighters would. So they decide to fly to Tunisia. So they basically do fly to Schweinfurt, drop the bombs, and then fly to Tunisia. So they escape the fighters. So I quite enjoyed that episode because I was like, does it make? If I see something like this, I have to go and research things and find out. And so I'll go on YouTube and I see the actual people, because there are a couple of people that are still
based on real historical.
Yeah. So I did think there was one bit which, I mean, there's a bit in a bar with they had a toffee nosed English, which I thought.
That.
Yeah, I thought there probably were people like that, but there were obviously good ones as well. So there was a little bit. There was, as an episode, and I'd say, we bomb at night. Oh, do you? But so I think with this, they didn't really. They could have done a little bit more, I think, to recognise the RAF. Not that I'm,
That was my criticism of it as well, because I thought they did very well, and it's based on the memoirs of one of the particular characters, because he narrates every episode, and it's based on his memoirs, so it's obviously his experiences. But I did feel in some ways it was very one-sided. You only, because it was very confined to the American base. You rarely ever saw outside of the base. So the impact of the Blitz, for example, or the bombing raids, or the buzz bombs, they really got mentioned. The fact that they're living in a country that had been at war, rationed for years, had been bombed constantly for years. There's little mention of that. It's very American centric.
And I think even with the Tuskegee Airmen, when they sort of appear at the end, but I think they could have done a little bit more with that. To me, that felt a little bit, no offense, but that felt a little bit. We better recognise the Tuskegee Airmen.
Tokenism.
Thank you, Tosin.
So I do feel that, especially the representation of British characters, I think we only met throughout the whole thing 5 British characters in the whole thing,
and they all
4 of them were RAF types who were supercilious, posh, really dismissive of the Yanks, and then there was one SOE operative basically, and she was representing. So I just thought, I just feel, to me, it felt a bit too one-sided. And at the end, you do see the victory is at the end. They're in this prisoner of war camp, and suddenly they all produce their own national flags. And I had a look. I could recognise about 6 or 7 flags that had popped out. There wasn't a single Union Jack on display. So I don't know whether it's because none of the prisoners there were British, which some of them were wearing British uniforms, but they managed to find a Norwegian flag, and they had several American flags, and they even had an Australian flag, but there's no Union Jack then. I was thinking, you're not being very good to your allies here.
The prisoner of war episodes. I don't know if I like them or not, Sharon. What did you think?
I didn't really like them. And again, they mentioned the Great Escape because they're at the same camp as Balaglyph 3. They mentioned the Great Escape, but it's almost quite dismissive. 76 men have been escaped, or the Brits, and 50 been executed. It's
I did find the prisoner of war
poor them
themes a bit, a bit. Should we say forced? Should we say it was they? I don't know. It just. But some of the episodes, some of the action scenes were quite thrilling. So, and as I say, it was very much.
Definitely.
It was very much. Some episodes were good, and some episodes it wasn't consistent. I didn't think, Sharon. What did you think?
I didn't. I thought the first episode had more impact.
Yeah.
I think when they're the first early missions, and then so I did, and then some of the characters, because obviously what happened in war, your friends go off to fly and they don't come back, and then they're gone. And so a lot of characters, they're just gone. And because a lot of the scenes, they're wearing their flight helmets and they've got the masks on, I struggled in some ways to work out who was who.
Right.
And so when they said, my mate so and so's gone, I was thinking, which one was he again?
Yeah.
and then they have scenes on the aircraft where some of the gunners, for example, get hit by flak. And there's a lot of screaming and shouting, and I'm thinking, I can't work out who you are. Or if you're the one who had the British girlfriend, if you're the one who was sweet on the colonel's daughter, or there's some of them, they had these little mini stories going where, and I couldn't work out what's
the Australian one, which I think was probably where they're doing R&R in Australia. Was it? Am I thinking of the right one? No, I'm thinking of the Pacific. Sorry,
Yeah.
forget that.
Well, it does seem as if it falls into the sort of usual American view of Britain as in everybody's a toff. Everybody's yeah, a bit like Irish Wish, or the American view of Ireland. Everybody's a leprechaun.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it literally was. There wasn't, even though you see sort of scenes at the beginning, you see a lot of the local people wandering around on the airbase, and they're sort of then waving the crews goodbye. You never meet any of those characters. Even in the pub, you just don't meet any of the locals.
No.
And you think, as it was in, well, I can't remember where it was set now. Is it Norfolk or East Anglia? Around that way. A lot of these air bases, or Suffolk, they did actually interact quite a lot with the locals, but there was none of that in this. So I feel it was like you only saw part of the story. I don't feel like it was.
Yes, they did interact quite a bit with the locals, as the birth records of a lot of the kids who were born in the wake of that will testify to. Okay, so how many stars would we give Masters of the Year on Apple TV Plus?
For me, I think this is a 3-star one. I think there was enough in the episodes to keep me interested. It didn't blow me away, no pun intended. But it had enough, I think, there to give it a 3. I apart from the faults, I didn't mind it. But it's no Band of Brothers.
No, I thought it was. I thought it was good. I did have my odd moment of like, come on, why that bit? And then sometimes I thought some bits were convenient, that you happened to be in this part of the theatre of war just so you could say, oh, actually, you could see it. So that they had some examples when there were prisoners of war, you suddenly see, a train of presumably Jews being taken away to the concentration camp. So you have these scenes where you think you're just nodding to say we're acknowledging that this also happened. And there's one bit where they hear bombing and they sort of go, oh yeah, these poor people who've been bombed for 4 years. So there's a little bit of tokenism going on. So it had good things. It had things I found frustrating with it, but on the whole, I thought it was an entertaining watch. It's worth watching just to maybe go and find out. Actually, maybe I need to find out a bit more about this to find out the story behind this. Yeah. So that it interested me enough to maybe think maybe I need to find out a bit more. So, but I would say it was a 3-star film, really.
3 stars for Masters of the Air. And now we go over to cinema, and we're going to talk Mother's Instinct. And so, Shaun, you said that you saw this, and it was a preview screening.
Yeah, preview screening.
I saw the trailer for
Sharon, this. It's a shame Sharon couldn't come, but that was the night she went to see Ghostbusters.
It was the same night.
Yeah. But because I've seen the trailer for this, and from what I can see, it's set in like the sort of suburbs, and it ends up being like it has to do with 2 mothers, and how one of them blames the other one. Oh, for goodness sake, these balloons again.
Yeah, So it is. It's 2 families. They're neighbours, and they've both got young sons. And it takes place in the early 60s because they say about Kennedy. It's obviously before Kennedy was president because they have a little conversation about Kennedy. And obviously there's a terrible accident. And I think that's actually in the trailer. So yes. It's not a spoiler. Let's just say one of the neighbours' sons dies. And then certain things happen throughout the movie. There's different times where the other mother with the son starts to become a bit suspicious that because they were such a close family, the boys played really well and the mums were really affectionate and really, because she shows a lot of attention on her son, if you see what I mean. So the wife who's lost her son pays a lot of attention and does it, and so it becomes all suspicious. And it's a little bit of a slow burn to start with, but I think that's for what I liked about it. There is a lot of character development in this, so I think that's why they were saying, because obviously they want to set it up that, let's just say, certain ones of them may have in the past had a few mental issues or whatever. So you've always got that sort of feeling is that things is, what is this? Is this paranoia, or is there something there? And of course, if you've had something in your past and you start sort of saying things, they're like, are you sure, and all this. And so let's just say, there's certain things that happen, and that's not the only death. There's other deaths and all that. And but I think, why they set this in the 60s is because nowadays, if it was up to date, some of the things that happened would have been thought of as suspicious and probably investigated a lot more these days. Well, that's a bit odd. That's a bit coincidental. We better investigate and look into this. But in those days, it was like, oh, it's a tragic accident. Oh, it's a, it's one of those things that happened. So I thought it was really, really well thought out on that side of it.
I think also as well, some of the things that you were saying as well, it sounds like it seems in the trailer as well that they're going to lean into this. Whether is it happening? Is it just a woman being hysterical? I think like in the 60s it was a lot that kind of thing, like she's just being hysterical. She's just give her a brandy and send her to bed or something like that.
Especially when before one of them's had some history. Do you know what I mean? It's like we don't want to. But and there are some great scenes in this. There's a scene which I really, really like. It's just the families before whatever happens, and the families are all together. And obviously, in those days, there was probably ladies that would have liked to have had a career doing something else. Like one was a journalist and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, suburban housewife, ideal.
Yeah.
So you've got a few issues there. And there's just one bit where, and I know it's probably nothing to do with the film, but so they've been drinking wine and all that. And there's one bit where one husband says something to the other wife, and she just suddenly turns, which is when people drink alcohol. I've met a lot of people, and it's done really well. And it's difficult to play drunk people on film or nastiness.
Yeah.
So I like that bit. There was a few scenes in this that I really, really thought really, really liked that. Really, and the payoff was just the ending. It was like. So I'm not going to say nothing about the ending, but I'm not going to say nothing about the ending, but I just think it was yes. I worked out the heart. I had it right from the start, which I was quite pleased with, but I really, really like the ending of this movie. Normally they all fall flat on their face. Yeah. Oh my god. Yes.
Oh my god. Mark the day. 28th. A modern movie, and Shaun liked the ending.
Yeah, I really did. Did.
Oh, I mean, honestly, that is enough to recommend this film. That Shaun thought the ending wasn't stupid.
It was, and I thought it was going to be Toes. I was thinking at one point. I was thinking, no. Because I got my things.
Because
it paid off, and I was like, wow.
It looks like a kind of film that could end up in melodrama, because it looks it sends a sort of a psychological battle of wits between Jessica Chastain and Anne Hathaway, and it looks like it could go there. When you talked about it's really difficult to act drunk, I was like, ooh, and I was trying to figure out who it was, whether it was Jessica Chastain or Anne Hathaway, and I was like, actually, they're both good at that.
It takes some. I mean, I thought the acting was superb. I really, really did like the acting in this. I thought it was great. It was all believable. There wasn't any nonsense. Even the husbands, even the difficult characters. Yeah. And as I say, I was. Let's just say I was really, really chuffed with the ending of the movie, but because I thought it was going to go one way, and it totally didn't.
Okay, so Shaun, moment of truth. How many stars are we giving this?
Let's get a 4. This one. It was a real nice surprise. Yeah, I liked it. I thought that it had enough elements in this to make it worth a 4. I was thinking a super high 3, but now I'm talking about it and now I'm going through it. Yeah, I'm thinking it deserves a 4.
All right, cool. So a 4 for Mother's Instinct, and that is because we are actually getting better at getting these podcasts and videos out early enough. That's like, go see this when it's released at cinemas, because this isn't in cinemas yet. Which reminds me, we got given a preview screening link for a Ewan McGregor film in which he stars with his daughter Clara McGregor, called Bleeding Love. And I think I sent that link to you guys. So I think I'll probably finish watching it by next week, and so then we'll be able to give you a proper preview thing as go watch this film before it comes out in cinemas. We're just going from strength to strength here at Netflix versus Cinema. I still don't know how we got that link. I still don't know how we got that link. And they've sent me another link for a preview opportunity, and they also sent me an email saying, oh, there's this film that's come out, and here you book here if you would like to interview the person in the film. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of thinking maybe I want to ask, how did we get on your radar? But at the same time, I don't want to ask in case they take it away. So,
Do they know how many subscribers we have?
it's like, do they know that there's going to be 5 people? Okay, fine. Yeah, sure, fine. I'll interview you. I'll interview your star.
I'll interview you, McGregor.
Yeah.
Maybe not you,
yeah,
McGregor.
why not? Why not? Let's do it. so I don't know how they found us.
Junket, that's fine by us.
Yeah.
Or you on the mainland. I don't think we're going to be trotting over there anytime soon.
You see, no, okay, Sharon, I figured it out. What's going to happen? I'm going to say, well, you see, the people have to fly, and I'm going to get them to pay for your ferry, for your train to London or wherever it is, and then we're probably going to get you have to get some hoodies or something made with Netflix versus cinema on them, and then sit down and then do our best English toff from Masters of the Air, going, yeah, so I see you Yanks can come over here. We'll just follow it and see what happens. We'll follow it, but I have received a second link to view something beforehand, and I'm just thinking maybe all this posting we've been doing over the last couple of years is working. But anyway, let us move on to the final thing we're going to talk about this week, which is Death and Other Details on Disney Plus. Now, this is something that, Sharon, on the surface of it, looks like it's right up your alley.
Okay.
Because this thing wears its influences on its sleeves. This is essentially, we're going to do Agatha Christie on a boat. I'm pretty sure Agatha Christie already did Agatha Christie on a boat. Oh yeah, Death on the Nile. but this is kind of like a modern day thing where you have this luxury line. And when the show starts, you have this luxury line, and there's all these rich people who are on this boat, and it's been organized by this business, this family that own a business, and they have called a whole bunch of their investors and people who they like onto this boat, onto this luxury liner that has been made up, that has been restored to look like it did in the 60s. So it has like a massive chandelier in the middle of it and all that kind of stuff. And while you're on this boat, they're also one of the characters happens to be the greatest detective in the world, played by Mandy Patinkin, who is so obviously a Poirot, Miss Marple kind of like sci-fi, is like a Benoit Blanc, if you will. He's just kind of like, that kind of character. Just put him in there, and there is a murder that happens on the boat. That night, it is a classic locked room thing where they're like, how the hell did this happen? Because no windows were broken, the door was locked from the inside, all these different things and all that. They're like, how did this murder happen? And the prime suspect, so this detective immediately goes to someone and says, you're going to be the prime suspect. And it turns out that she has a history with him. So she has a history with him where she doesn't like him because something that happened in her childhood where they like interacted and all that kind of stuff. It comes as you go along. And as you go along with the story, it becomes this whodunit. Because Interpol are about to come onto the boat and are about to take over the investigation. And they have to try and find out who actually committed the murder before Interpol come in. And they're just going to point a finger the most obvious person, which is this woman. So that is the setup. So far, so much so far. I'm like, oh, this is good. And I remember I was watching this thing, and I think there's about 10 episodes. And the first half of it, you're like, okay, this is good. They are really updating the whole Agatha Christie thing for a modern audience. It is making sense. It is going. I am connected. Okay, let's watch The Beautiful People. Let's see what happens. It is one of these shows that I think there's a lot of films and TV shows that have been made recently that essentially say, rich people are bad. That's pretty much the thing. Rich people are bad. And this is in that vein that, aren't rich people terrible? Oh, look how horrible they are. And a large part of the first 5 minutes is about how terrible rich people are. But then it turns out that the person who was killed wasn't exactly who he seems to be. And it goes well for the first half. Then I think it kind of falls off a cliff. Because I think these sort of stories, and Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, is like when you have a whodunit or anything like that, they work best when they are self-contained. When they're they work best when they're self-contained. You finish it, that's the killer, that's how they did it. Oh my God, aren't they clever? Isn't a hero detective clever for figuring it out? Yay! End of story. But this starts going into sort of conspiracy land and everything like that, and it feels like, did you ever watch Prison Break?
No, I never did, because it seemed to keep going on and on forever.
It did. Now, Prison Break.
When they get out of prison, then they want to go back into prison, so they could get out of prison again. I just didn't see the point of it.
Yes, stupid. The first season, Prison Break was something that had a great hook. Like, okay, this guy's trying to get out of prison. He gets the schematics tattooed on his body to break his brother out of prison. Great. That is brilliant. I want to watch that. But then they kept adding all these things. Oh, it goes all the way up to the top, and it's the president, and then it just falls apart. And I think this show does a little bit of that. It starts off as a nice, good, well-contained whodunit. And then as it goes on, you're going, okay, no, this is getting a bit woolly. And okay, why are we going back to somebody's childhood? And why is that going on there? And what's that? And it just keeps on. Okay, who's that person? Oh, that person. Oh, why? Okay, there's some more deaths. Why did those deaths happen? Or why? And it gets to the point where when they do their big reveal as to what's actually going on, I was like, oh no, just no. I was like, okay, that it has gone into the realms of the silly. It's gone into the realms of I mean, essentially, I would love you guys to watch it just so I can go into how silly it gets and how I just feel like they waste the potential of the beginning. And then at the end, when I talk about it being self-contained, they do a whole kind of like, ooh, aren't you going to come back for season 2 and see what's going on? And I'm like, oh no. And the way they do it is like, they're not going to just keep the detective character. It's like they're going to keep everybody for the next couple. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do this. And they're just little things that they do in it that seem a bit weird. Like there's one character who seemed to have signed a contract that stipulated that she had to get naked for a whole bunch of the episodes. So for the first, for the first, and there's a scene in the first episode that they do, and I think, okay, I can understand that scene. The way they do it is kind of like, this is your mother's Poirot, the kind of thing. I can get what they're trying to do, bring it into the modern. That's good. But then the next episode, there's another scene where it's like, what's the point of that? Then the next episode, there's another scene with the same character, and I'm like, does she just like being naked? What's going on here? Why is it this one character that keeps ending up in these situations? Why is it that way? So in the end, I think I would have to give it. It started well. It looked good. I was like, oh, this could be a good new detective for to add to the pantheon. I'm really hovering between a 2 and a 3. I think at most it's a low 3 because I think it went well. I think there's Violent Bean and Mandy Patinkin, and it looks gorgeous for the most part until they try and do some green screen stuff, which looks horrible. But it looks gorgeous. The characters are interesting to begin with, but where they go with them or what they do with them and how they have this big bad in the shadows, and it just kind of like, it doesn't hold together. It just doesn't hold together. So I will give it a low 3. I'll give it a low 3. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a low 3. I think just because I was quite happy at the beginning, but I feel like it just didn't hold together in the end. And I think my 2 would just be me taking it too personally, taking it way too personally.
Yeah. That can happen. I think that can happen sometimes.
Yes, so that's it.
I've learnt my lessons there.
Yeah, because some programs, they start off as a 4. Some seasons you think, yeah, these first episodes, they're 4s. And then it ends up at a 2, and you think, well, it's a 3 then, isn't it? Because you end up
3.
Sort of
it's a 3,
it.
even though you want to take away a star because they hurt you. Because they promised me something and then they hurt me. All right, cool. So all that's left to go is like, who do we think has won this week? Netflix or cinema?
Cinema.
I think cinema just by the 4. Otherwise, it was pretty standard 3s.
It was pretty straight across the board. Yeah, cinema just pipped it because of Mother's Instinct, because of the shock of Shaun liking a movie's ending, which makes me think I need to go watch this film now. So yeah, that is it. Okay, and now
it was. Go on. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do this, don't you?
Yes. I want to do this. So, okay, for those of you who are listening to the audio bit, if I leave this bit in, which I might do because I'm lazy, what Shaun has done is Shaun has shown up with a background on his Zoom screen that has a whole bunch of logos of companies. But the thing is, all these companies are from films. And so the whole idea is that you have things like Zorg Industries, Encom, InGen. I think there's an OCP in there. There's US Robotics. And we've got to figure out which film these companies show up in. So, first of all, okay, there's Mentel. Mentel. That sounds like it has something to do with minds and all that. I don't know what that is. I would think no, that is a Minority Report. That's not the name. That's the name of the thing in Minority Report, is it?
Yeah. As I say, I might struggle with some of them.
Okay, cool. That one I'm gonna go, but the next one, Zorg, I know that one for sure.
Do you know that
Sharon,
one,
any,
Sharon?
I don't know any of them. I'll say it
okay,
out there. I've
okay,
probably seen them all these films, but I just don't know them. I know, is there one? Is that an Umbrella one? There is that Umbrella Corps from Resident Evil.
yes, yes,
Down
put
the
on
bottom
middle,
there. Yeah.
yeah, but then a bit of
That red and white one. Is that the red and white one? Is that the Umbrella Corps?
yes, it is Umbrella Corps. That is
Yeah,
Umbrella Corps. So at
that's
the
from
top
Resident
we have
Evil.
Zorg
So,
Industries. That's the fifth element. That is the company that Gary
okay.
Oldman has. InSoc. I think I no, I'm not gonna give ICS Network Television. I don't know network. Bifco, Back to the Future. InGen, Jurassic Park. Wayland Yutani. That is Alien. That's in the Alien world. The Wayland Yutani Corporation.
Yeah.
United Fed Encom. I feel like I should know, but I can't put my finger on it. United Federation of Planets. Ugh, I don't know.
That's probably the easiest one, I would think.
United Federation
Federation
of
of Planets. Isn't that Star
Yeah.
Trek
Not Star
universe?
Wars. The other
Star
one.
Star
Trek.
Trek.
Star
Really?
The
Trek.
Star Trek
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
universe. Yeah.
Is that
The
what the look? Is that what the logo looks like?
I believe it
United
is in the
Federation of
movies. Yeah.
Planets. Yeah.
I believe it is in the movies.
Okay, cool. Cyberdyne Systems. Cyberdyne.
That's
Yeah.
Terminator, isn't
That's
Yes,
it?
Terminator.
Well done. Federal Network. Come on.
Federal Network.
Do you want to know more?
Is it 1984?
No.
Brazil?
No. The 1984 is on there. That's the INCSOC one, I think.
Oh,
What is?
InkSock. That's 84.
What's not
Federal.
a RoboCop or anything? No.
No,
What?
RoboCop.
Federal
RoboCop is
Network.
OCP. RoboCop is OCP, the one
OCP.
directly below that.
Yeah. Do
So
you want to the Federal Network? Do you want to know more?
V for Vendetta.
No. It's a bug planet. It's a nasty
Oh,
planet.
Starship
Yeah. Starship Troopers. You know
Yeah,
that was
brilliant.
I was
To me,
going
that's
to
probably
say
the
that, right?
easiest one.
You know, I was going to say Starship Troopers. The way you said, "Do you want to know more?" It threw me off because it looks
Oh.
like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, but there's that thing where they put it on the thing, isn't there? And it goes, "There's a brain bug. Do you want to know more?" That's the.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And
Yeah,
then
no,
the
because
bit
I
that's
like-
like censored, isn't it? When you see all this bug.
Okay, so bottom left we have genetic replicants Tyrell. That's obviously Blade Runner. Once you
Blade
see the
Runner,
word replicants, and recall is Total Recall.
very cool. Yeah.
So that is but Encom and Encom, IngSoc, ICS, Network Television, and Mentel. I do not know which one's this. And if you're watching the YouTube video on this, please.
INCSOC is 1984. I know that one. So.
All right. So if you're watching the videos on this, please do tell us what all these ones are because we have blanked on at least 3 of them. But well, I'm going to give myself 90% or 80%. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Well, I'll have to. What I should have done is I should have looked myself. I should have researched these, but I didn't. I should have looked, but
The Encom one is gonna bug me a bit. But anyway,
next time I will. I know Encom.
yeah. There's one.
Have you got a computer there, Toes? Put it in. See what Encom is.
Encom, yeah, but
I reckon.
can't say
Should we? Yeah.
Encom movies. Encom movies. There's actually a real life company called that.
All right.
Oh.
Tell me.
Oh, think light cycles.
Light cycles.
Yep.
Oh, Tron.
Yeah.
Tron.
Yes, it's Tron. It's Tron.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is that Baffa or Biffaco? What's that one?
It's Bifco. That's Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, right?
Yeah, Back to the Future 2 to be more precise. Okay, so all right. If you have listened to this and you listened this far, thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah.
Do follow us on Twitter at Netflix via Cinema. Follow us on YouTube at Netflix via Cinema. Subscribe to us on YouTube to get like individual reviews of the different things that we speak about. And get in touch and let us know what you think about the films that we've spoken about. And if you have a way of us interviewing you, McGregor, or anybody like that, we promise we'll be nice. Please get in touch. Let us know. Seeing as we don't know how we got this link on the email, we got one, and we're gonna ride this for all it's worth. All right, thank you very much for joining us. Until next week, when we'll find something to watch. I'll be watching £3.50 movies in £3.50 movies in Romford.
I think we got Godzilla this weekend, haven't we?
Is it?
I believe so. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to see. I don't know if Sharon, after we do the podcast next week, I'm going to go and see the 8 o'clock showing of Civil War. If you wanted to come.
Ooh,
That
Civil
sounds good.
War.
There's
because I've been looking forward to that one.
Yeah, so it depends how late it finishes because I'm going to London on the Friday, but
Oh, right, okay.
we can go
Nice.
into
Yeah,
that.
well, we can discuss it then. There's also where's my phone?
Oh,
also-
there's Kung Fu Panda 4.
Oh. Will your little in like that? Will she be able to take that one?
Maybe, I don't know, but what we know for sure is that Sharon will be there with bells on for Kung Fu Panda 4.
Oh, well, that'll be good then. Right.
Yeah, but I might have another accident by then.
Yeah. You might have your arm. You might come in next week and have the Kong.
All plastered up.
It's like
you have the Kong glove, what we've seen in the trailer.
Oh yes.
You could have a tattoo, yeah.
Sharon will be like, oh, you know what? I was on my way to go watch Kung Fu Panda 4 and I just fell over. It just happened.
Just happened.
What did you know? What did you know? So I think we have Kung Fu Panda 4. We have Kong X Godzilla, or Godzilla X Kong rather. Those are the two ones that I think I can see coming. Actually, look at what's happening in Romford. But never mind.
There's a few unlimited screenings, Sharon. There's Ordinary Angels, which I booked for, and what else have I? Well, so Book of Clarence is another one. So there's a few that I've.
Yeah. Give me the heads up, and
Yeah, you never know. I know. No, I understand. I'll give you a shout before.
Yeah, and if I can't, I will.
All right. So until next week, when we will find whatever it is that we'll be watching for £3.50, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.